Hi everyone, welcome to the Celo times Huobi Stablecoin in Web3 and Sustainability Hackathon demo day. The demo day is actually finished on July 24th, 2022. It lasted 4 weeks and received over 3,000 registrations and 45 project submissions. We obtained some amazing projects from this hackathon, and we would like to showcase them in the demo day below.
So, Brandy Camacho here, Developer Relations at the Celo Foundation. So glad to be here. What an event. I'm really proud of all the projects, the momentum that they built up to this point, so that way we can have demo day today. Celo Foundation is all about promoting the growth where creators and founders can reshape like local economies. We are fully focused on regenerative finance at the moment, and naturally, we are focused also on the mobile first approach to blockchain solutions. So for myself, I've worked with a lot of projects, and I'm excited to participate and provide any valuable feedback that I can, and also help support projects as they continue to foster the growth cycle as they develop their use cases. So glad to be here. So thank you for having me here.
All right, thank you everyone for being here. My name is Eric. I'm joined by my co-founder Dylan, and today we'll be presenting 1754 Factory, an uncollateralized lending protocol that aims to bring last mile lending onto the blockchain. So our mission at 1754 is to let anyone with a smartphone request or fulfill a loan. The problem we're trying to solve is that with existing solutions like Goldfinch and Tinlake, their downstream lending takes place off the blockchain. So for example, borrowers on Goldfinch, what they'll do is they'll take their stablecoins, cash out to fiat, and then send a wire to their borrowers, which is typically like fintechs or MFIs. Those individuals will then delegate credit lines to their employees, mobile bankers, and then mobile bankers will delegate the final credit line to end consumers. So this makes it extremely challenging, if not impossible, for their lenders to audit their books, which ultimately becomes a bottleneck for scalability. So our solution is to build a credit delegation system that allows participants to bring their downstream lending onto the blockchain. So instead of taking the funds and cashing out or even sending them directly to their wallet address, they can keep the funds internal to the smart contract and just delegate credit lines to their other participants. Since loan origination will now take place at the end borrower level, we're also building out a decentralized auditor network that allows participants to determine the creditworthiness of borrowers while preserving their privacy. At a high level, there's 4 participants: lenders, managers, borrowers, and attesters. It starts with lenders parking their money with lending managers. These are essentially like investment managers, so they run active strategies and choose which funds to park their capital with. Fund managers are fintechs and MFIs, and they delegate credit lines to their employees, loan officers, who then ultimately giving the credit line to end borrowers. So at this stage, retail can request a loan through the protocol. When they do so, whatever interface they use to request a loan will pull data from their device and publish an attestation. This attestation will be verified by mobile bankers who will perform the final delegation, which is when end borrowers can draw down their credit line. So attestations play a key role in managing risk on 1754. We envision 6 levels of attestations, although this will definitely grow over time as we go live. First level is a simple liveness check, followed by phone number verification, and then actually looking at their telco history, so analyzing their calls and texts to essentially determine if they're a scammer. Level 4 is where we'll start to have some fall off because not everyone has a government issued ID, but you can do KYC and AML checks, connect your bank account or mobile money account to get a credit score, or get physical verification performed by one of our partner networks. So what does this look like in practice? Essentially, fintechs, or really anyone who's delegating credit lines in the system, can essentially say what levels are required for their capital to be made available to a borrower. So for example, they could say that you have to go through every level of attestation except for level 4, and they can even set thresholds for each level. So for example, need to have a credit score of at least 700. And then they can also whitelist what attesters can make valid claims. So essentially determine who you deem credible to be publishing accurate data. Obviously, users should not have to disclose their credit score to the entire world in order to get like a $10 loan. So in order to preserve borrower privacy, we'll be working with SecureScore at first. SecureScore is a centralized entity though. So over time, we will be shifting to using Coinbase's Open Zero Knowledge Proof Identity Protocol. This is actually a very new system that we're just now being onboarded to their private beta. And this will allow us to essentially prove that a borrower meets a certain criteria without disclosing any of the underlying information on the borrower. Another way that we manage risk is through tranching. So each loan has a junior and senior tranche, as well as we have a senior basket that is controlled by governance and also includes insurance mechanisms. For getting money out of the system, we use a simple first in, first out solver. And it's worth noting that we're considering allowing people to swap between debt tokens. So for example, if you allocate capital to the senior tranche of an MFI, being able to deposit that and mint senior basket tokens or vice versa. Quick look at the market. The on-chain market currently isn't massive, but Goldfinch did grow 25x year over year. Tin Lake grew 4x, and the off-chain lending market is obviously pretty sizable. For our go-to-market strategy, we're essentially going to work with our current company, which is Node Finance, to build out middleware to make it a lot easier for fintechs and MFIs to make this migration to Web3. So this means using our wallet SDKs, as well as attestation APIs, cash in, cash out, and building dashboards for mobile bankers. Here's a quick look at what our lend interface looks like and borrow interfaces. And then quick note on team. Again, founders of Node Finance, and we're also one of the largest asset originators on Centrifuge Tin Lake. Now I'll pass it over to Dylan for a brief demo.
For our demo, we're going to look at how a retail borrower might go about requesting a bullet loan. So we'll request a 10 real loan, and we're going to use this loan for school. I'll say it'll take 60 days and 10 payments to repay this loan, and we promise we will repay. This particular demo is tailored more towards Brazil, and so we're kind of trying to look like Christ the Redeemer here just to hit home a little bit. Now, ultimately, it is posting that request on chain, and we will have attesters listening for that request. And we can see that we got a risk score of 348. So that might be low enough to get auto-filled. And in fact, it was. And we can see that was filled by Chorus Fund 2. And if we go in, we can view the transaction and see that we were given the 10 real, or our test token, because this is currently on testnet. And the fund manager received this ERC 721 that directly correlates to this specific bullet loan. Now, on the flip side, we have 1754 website. And from here, we can actually look into each fund manager and look into their books and even lend to them. So if we go to the Chorus pool, which is the one that actually just funded the bullet loan we saw, as a different user now, I can deposit into this senior tranche. And for 1 real, I'll receive 0.99 fact, which is the senior tranche representation in an ERC20 form. So just like that, it's easy as that to deposit into a fund manager. And additionally, on this page, we can go through and see some details on the funds. We can ultimately see who's leading it. And most importantly, we can view the current portfolio book for this fund. So we can see loan sizes for all the bullet loans they're fulfilling, the duration, the APR on those loans, and how much has yet to be paid. Thank you. Now we will take any questions.
Awesome. Any questions from the judges?
Hi, this is Lucas from Huobi Incubator. It's a great project. I definitely love it. Just a question about what's your opinion of what sort of, it's still like a really new area of the market. So what sort of missing part you think there is, and what sort of barrier you guys could be overcome like during the development of this kind of project?
Yeah, no, great question. I'd say there's several barriers in this space, regulation being kind of like the main one. So with that, it boils down to what legal structures are these protocols deploying. All the different existing protocols have different methods, some of them a lot more centralized than others. And the more centralized you make it, the easier it becomes for participants because it's much more hands off, but at the same time, introduces centralization risks. So to address that, we set up, and we talk about this in our write-up, but different SPV types for different levels of lending that's taking place, and essentially just modeling it off of what's worked for existing protocols. I'd say the other big thing is actually, again, as we noted in the beginning, which is these loan books are very opaque. Borrowers on Tinlake and Goldfinch take that stablecoin and cash out to fiat, and that's where the paper trail ends. So by bringing that lending on chain, we presumably open up a lot more room for scalability. And then lastly, I'd say cash in, cash out. So none of these websites, actually, Goldfinch, Tinlake, et cetera, none of them allow you to cash in directly from the website. And that's kind of just a UX hurdle for participants. So same thing for people cashing out as well. They got to go through their own providers for that. But yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Quick question.
Actually, Illumi, I saw you raise your hands before.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, I'm from Air Force. My name's D. So we are a cross between a climate and blockchain fund, traditional venture experimentation with Web3 DAO. A lot of our management committee comes from the Dream DAO. So we worked with a lot of impact organization. We're very familiar with the impact market. So what you're doing is awesome work. We're very aware of it. My question is around MFI. So MFI is a very worthwhile task, right? It's also very well documented success and failures. For example, success in Bangladesh, failure in neighboring India. And you kind of jumped over the attestation process really quickly in the process. Now, I have a lot of faith in it working in Brazil, as you described, but how do you plan to scale it beyond it because of the social differences? Because just bringing it on chain doesn't necessarily bring enforcement of these loans or collateral or collection of these loans in any way, right? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, which is each of these markets are very, very different. And that's why we're taking a very focused approach for our rollout. But once we do grow and start to expand to other countries, most notably move from Latin America to Africa, that's where we're going to start to explore more group lending style. So for example, something that's really interesting with our credit delegation system is it could, like, delegators can take many different forms. So for example, the mobile bankers, instead of delegating to individual borrowers, they could delegate to a multi-sig, which is, for example, like a Stockville or a savings group, to where they then have their own governance for then dispersing that money to individuals, which still happens internal to the protocol. So funds will stay within Tinlake or Goldfinch while they're, like, sorting out that governance, human to human. And then once they do finally delegate that final credit line, then the individual borrower can draw it down. That's actually savings circles and village banking was the starting point for this idea. And as you let people kind of lend amongst themselves, it also gives you as outside lenders a lot more clarity into, okay, like, I may not be able to lend to an individual, but this group, over the last 6 months has performed relatively well amongst themselves. Obviously, by lending to groups, you also have that social pressure, right? Because if your friend doesn't repay, you go knock on their door because, like, hey, I want my money back. Please repay our loan. Yeah, but I will acknowledge that collections is something that actually has not been tested until now with the recent bust of Three Arrows Capital. And I believe there was some exposure on Maple and TrueFi. So we'll see how that goes. But that's where legal agreements come into place, the SPV, and just, yeah. But relying on social pressure, I think, is definitely much more advantageous than taking anyone to court.
Thanks.
I had a question in regards to regulations. We know that they're coming. right? And they're maturing and regions vary. So is there a method that you're putting in place in regards to handling metadata to be in compliance for these various regions, especially when it comes down to utilizing zero knowledge proofs? How are you working with that?
Yeah, no, another great question. So first and foremost, everyone within the US will have to do KYC and AML checks like how you do on TinLake. And when it comes to end borrowers, this is where it gets a little bit tricky because not everyone has proper identification to do KYC. And so the method that we're taking is essentially creating an open source legal framework for each country. So we're still in the very early stages of this. Right now, we're just focusing on Brazil. But the idea is consult with local lawyers, develop a playbook for MFIs and fintechs to migrate over to Web3 in a compliant way. And then also have frameworks in place for, hey, if you're lending to people in this country, you should require at least this level of attestation.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. And Chris?
Chris.
Oh, you're muted, Chris.
Sorry. Hi. Good to see you again, Eric. By the way,
Thank
I really want to know about how the tokenomic works, how tokens work with the business model. Could you explain a bit?
Yeah, no, happy to. So this is, I'd say, so the primary use case, there's many different ways you can incorporate governance tokens. Like Maple requires you to stake like some of their token paired with USDC in order to open up a new pool. The main use case for our token right now is for determining how senior basket liquidity should be allocated. So stakers can essentially delegate their votes to certain fund managers, or really any manager, in order to make that entity open for senior tranche capital or senior basket capital. And then their tokens will also act as insurance to backstop in the event of default. That's the primary use case for now. But some entities that are involved in the system that don't necessarily have exposure to individual loans, like attesters, for example, they're a very crucial piece of this pie, but they're not actually lending money to end borrowers. So they will also be required to stake some 1754 tokens to have some quote unquote skin in the game. Yeah, we have a few other ideas in mind, but we think keeping it simple at first is best, and then expand functionality over time.
Also, another question is, do any similar project in the market at the moment?
Yeah, I would say so. The most similar, I think, to us right now would probably be Maya Finance, or I'm sorry, not Maya, Masa Finance. They actually come from the former team of PingMe, which actually builds APIs for doing credit scoring, and they're just an aggregator, so they don't do the credit scoring themselves, as far as I'm aware. They just aggregate APIs. We actually plan on collaborating with them for data availability on users. There's many nuanced differences between us and them. Happy to walk through each of those details, but I would say at a high level, they're more focused on actually having a data sharing network, as far as I can tell. Whereas we're trying to eliminate data sharing entirely and focus more on actually the lending protocol itself and wrapping around existing protocols instead of forking them and then building our own. So yeah, and then I think also one other thing to note is that we'll be able to bootstrap liquidity in the early days. 1754 is actually an existing lending manager on TinLake and Goldfinch as well. And so we'll be able to bootstrap initial liquidity to get started.
Got you. By the way, did we share the tokens design? I didn't see the slide.
We did not touch in the presentation on tokenomics.
Okay.
Just because there was a lot to cover in this, and tokenomics was probably. But I'll follow up via email with you and send you a pretty lengthy write up that we did. That'll go into that in more detail.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome.
Okay, hi. So I'm from Web3 Financial. My name is Chuck Lam. I'm the CEO and founder of the company. And so what we are building for this project is a Celo to Gcash exchange with the goal of trying to enable crypto adoption through mobile wallets. And, what's the big deal? Why, what is Gcash? And why is this an important thing? To explain that, I want to point to two inflection points that have been happening in the last couple of years, all because of the COVID and the lockdown. The first inflection is that because of COVID, the world has pretty much gone cashless for 2 years. You don't want to see anybody, you don't want to hand them anything. So everyone in the world has been looking for or adopting alternatives to cash. In the US and a lot of Western countries, we already have credit cards. So we just see a lot more credit card usage. And then you also see in places like China, well, they've also gone cashless a long time ago with Alipay and WeChat Pay. And these are what I call as mobile wallets. So you see those adoption, or you see the usage increase as well, but the adoption has already kind of happened. What I think is really interesting is that in emerging markets is where the adoption did not occur before the pandemic, and it really happened during the pandemic, where a lot of people have kind of gravitated towards mobile wallets. And specifically in the Philippines, they have a system called Gcash, and which is, you can think of it as the Alipay of the Philippines. And I don't make the Alipay analogy lightly because they actually, in fact, did get investment from Ant Group, which is the group behind Alipay. So they definitely have the Alipay strategy going. Having said that, Gcash is not actually a new app. They've been kind of around for a while. Originally, they were founded by Globe Telecom, which is like the largest telephone company in the Philippines. And when it started, it was years ago as just a store of value for your phone credit. And if you guys remember, about M-Pesa from Kenya, this is pretty much like a similar system. And so they've been around for years, and then they have sort of just evolved over time, and then the adoption had increased steadily. So when the smartphones became more widely available, Gcash became more of an app. And also again, when Alipay and WeChat Pay in China sort of took off, that kind of really inspired Gcash and the cohorts to follow that business model and become a super app. And Gcash is also not the only mobile wallet in the Philippines. They just happen to be the largest one. There are other ones like Maya, GrabPay, and ShopeePay, and so forth. And the inflection point I want to point out is that in the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, the adoption of Gcash had doubled from 32% to 70%. Again, all because people are no longer using cash, so they needed an alternative. And the adoption also comes with engagement. So the daily active user for Gcash is 23 million. And to kind of put that in context, the Philippines population is about 115 million, so about 1 in 5 people, 1 in 5 Filipinos are using that daily. And the population includes everybody, even kids. So you can imagine that in the adult population, the percentage is even higher. So that was inflection number one, that things have really changed in the last couple of years. Another inflection I want to point to is that because of COVID, we have all kind of adopted the remote work and also remote play. But that kind of, again, turned out differently between developed countries and emerging countries. In terms of play, there's just a lot more online gaming. We all saw that, if you have any kids or the cousins, or, you probably see them, stuck at home and kind of play a lot more games, right? And then for the adults, all of us started to work from home. But I think what's interesting is that at least in developed countries, and I'm an engineer, right? So working from home and working at the office is different, but not that different, And the most important thing is that for us, we pretty much keep the same job. Like you didn't have to find a new job just because you're working from home. What I noticed in the emerging countries is that, well, in terms of play, they're still the same. People just play a lot more games. But in terms of work, there was, people couldn't just say, oh, I just work from home, but keep the same job because, the kind of jobs that, you're working in emerging countries, if you're not there physically, you're not working. So what I noticed is that a lot of people are finding new jobs that could be done online. And one of the really interesting, kind of thing that kind of came out of this is that people start doing play to earn, and you can kind of see that a lot in the Philippines. They discover that, hey, if I can earn money from the metaverse, why not, right? You're stuck at home anyways. And if you look at this report came out of MetaMask, in fact, just last month. I did not even incorporate it in the hackathon because it came out after that. What you notice is that Philippines is one of the top markets for MetaMask, and is also one of the fastest growing one. So something is going on there. And what happened is that, another number is that a little bit older, is that 20% of MetaMask users actually in the Philippines. So the Filipinos have really taken into crypto. And I understand the number after starting a gaming guild last year. What happened is that a lot of, crypto gaming had really introduced a lot of Filipinos to crypto. And in fact, I started a gaming guild, and these are some of my scholars. I found them through friends of friends. So, I live in San Francisco, got some Filipino American friends, asked them about, hey, do you have people, families who are still back in the Philippines? And one thing led to another, got a group of players. And so these players basically, they were earning crypto from playing the games. And from being their manager, got to talk to them a bit and kind of understand the situation really well. And the more I understand how they kind of look at crypto, the more I realize that, hey, this is actually a very different set of people with very different viewpoints than what a Silicon Valley engineer may kind of think of it. So I kind of understood them better. A few things that were really surprising to me were just how crypto literate they were. They, without me kind of explaining anything, they're already familiar with MetaMask and the Ronin wallets. They understood bridges and NFTs, and they definitely understand Stablecoin because the SLP token that they were earning was not very stable. And also the other things I kind of learned from them is that they figure out their own way of kind of going on ramp and off ramp. In terms of education, they don't really go through the normal Medium and Discord or whatever Twitter channels that a lot of us degens would go through. They actually use Facebook and also their own social groups to kind of help each other understand how to on ramp and off ramp to the crypto world in terms of Axie Infinity. And I've also learned that a lot of them have their own unique system of buying and selling NFTs. And in fact, when I started this guild, I kind of asked them for direction on hey, what would you do if you had the money to go through this? And they showed me a lot of different ways. And I never bought any of these Axies for them.
Chunk, do you want to wrap it up?
Okay. So long story short, none of them have bank accounts too. So I think there's a very different different generation of crypto natives. And so what inspired me is that we can, with Celo, being more focused on emerging markets and also having features that are very friendly to mobile, we can develop a connection between Celo and the mobile wallet to make it a very easier on-ramp and off-ramp. Here's some screenshot. The fact that because we only use a phone number is used as an ID makes it really easy. There's only the 3-screen sign up, and after that, anytime you send crypto to that particular phone number would help you cash in and cash out. There are some legal challenges, but the fact that there are actually existing exchanges that do this makes it very feasible. I've already talked to some lawyers that there's a roadmap. It's a matter of how much money you want to spend. And also,
sorry, I need to cut you off here.
Okay.
It's 9 minutes. Yeah.
Got it. Do you want to see the? I mean, I can do the demo, but really, it really is just those 3 screenshots there that you can kind of walk through, much more quickly. You come to the site, you basically register with your phone number and your name, and your name is required for the KYC part of it. You sign up. I send you an OTP to pretty much just to verify that you do in fact own that phone number. It's not someone else trying to register that phone number. And so once you kind of confirm that you own that phone number, I'll send you basically a special number that's the WACME financial number that you can keep in your phone book. So in the future, if you use the Valora wallet and send any CUSD to that number, on the back end, we'll detect that and kind of see that, hey, who the sender is, and then we look up the sender based on your registration, what your phone number is, and we'll send Gcash to your phone number. So that's how you cash out, and the cash in part is just the reverse of that.
Awesome. Brandy, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, quick question. I do know that you're cut off, and that definitely affects your presentation. Fully understand that. But I would love to learn a little bit more, like the future of WAGMI. What's your plan? And share a little bit about your strategy for extensibility. How do you plan scale and extensibility to expand your product offering?
Yeah, so I think, if I understand the question properly, it's kind of like, what are the adjacent markets that would kind of get into? Because, just exchanging Celo to Gcash is a very specific thing. And that's what I did for the hackathon. But in terms of the business model, there are definitely a lot of directions to kind of add. So, Gcash is not the only mobile wallet. It just happened to be the biggest one. And there are a bunch of other Filipino mobile wallets. There are Maya, GrabPay, ShopeePay. So that's one direction I can add to. And also, again, for the hackathon, I kind of focus on Celo and the stablecoin. But as you can tell from my presentation, the original inspiration was really from crypto gaming. So one of my original ideas, was to actually support all the gaming tokens, or basically any other crypto tokens that are out there, that as long as they find a usage, in terms of like the creator economy, like that people can earn crypto by whatever that they do. I will support that. So basically just helping people who may be earning a few $100 equivalent a month in crypto to have an easier off-ramp for them. And then, if kind of go in that direction, I can actually make it, in fact, I try to architect it in such a way that, like, it's not, that's why the website is actually fairly simple, because I think the long term, what I would like is to really have an API or almost an embeddable widget to integrate into the wallets. And I think that way, whatever crypto project that people are working on, hey, if you kind of imagine that your user needs an on-ramp and off-ramp, sort of like MoonPay, that you can sort of just integrate directly into the wallet and have it like a much better user interface. And also lastly is like, well, again, I kind of focus on Philippines because that was the market that I discovered, as well as like, with crypto gaming and also with some of these mobile wallets, they're kind of like the leader. But I'd imagine the same dynamic, in fact, is happening in other countries like, Vietnam, Indonesia, and so forth. So having figure out the Filipino market will pretty much help create a playbook to enter into the other countries.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So is it any like the tokens? Are you guys, is it equity deal or token deal? And
it's an equity deal. We don't.
Equity deal. I understood. Okay.
Yeah. And that also kind of simplifies a lot of regulatory concerns.
So when the users convert their Celo tokens to like the dollars in Gcash, who is actually providing the liquidity market for the users?
Yeah, so we are doing all the backend for them. Initially, we're gonna basically bootstrap by other, like, it's already doable right now. So initially we'll take the liquidity just using like regular exchanges. So in some sense, you can think of it as a two-step process. I mean, there's both like, you can either use a Binance or the DEX or some to basically like convert Celo into USD, and then like we kind of do the offline, the currency exchange from USD to Philippine pesos. So we're gonna be initially we're gonna just leverage like existing liquidity. Hopefully, when we kind of get big enough, we can become our own liquidity provider. But I see that as an optimization, and we can kind of do that much later.
So Stunning Green, decarbonize our buildings. So to start with, I need to talk about the team. Right now, it's me, Paulo, front-end engineer, and Teresa, who's architect and software engineer. And we are both focused on technology and make our cities more sustainable. So this is the way our project looks like. It's the homepage. And we know that building renovation have a key rule on decarbonization of the built environment. So having this understanding in terms of the city, we have 40% of the energy consumed that we have is in the building. And we have in these buildings 36% of greenhouses gases emissions, and we have 84% of these buildings will stand until 2050 that we should be climate neutral, following the standards that we have for Europe and for USA. So understanding this, one of the things that it's a key rule for us is that we need to retrofit our existing buildings, and it's crucial to achieve these net zero carbon targets, but there is a question, how can we, so why should we renovate buildings? So one of the things that it's key and it's important for us in terms of thinking of renovating building, it's that for environmental point of view, we need to be wise in terms of reuse and adapt materials that we already have, and it's essential for a social and cultural perspective. And the most important point is community, cultural, and heritage. But we have some economical problems when we are thinking about renovations, because renovations cost a lot of money. So everyone that tries or made some renovation at home, we know that it's a huge and strong investment. And we have other points that we should favor the projects that are committed to achieve these energy standards, especially right now that we have this agenda that we need to follow in terms of having this net zero. So what is the solution? The solution that we have is that we designed a plugin with Beam, building information modeling, that calculates the energy efficiency of the project. So this is what it looks like. This is an image of the Beam, and with this plugin, our dashboard will display the energy results and suggest improvements to higher energy, the energy efficiency levels. Okay. So talking about this, we need to understand how this will apply to the buildings and the environment that we have. So this is a photo for Barcelona. It's a news that we have here, that 84% of the buildings here was made in the 19th century. So it's a lot of building, and a lot of building that was made before we have this climate craziness, and before we have some of the standards that we have right now that can make our buildings better for the people who are living inside us. So as an example, we have this building, and the emission that this building has is 75 kilo of carbon per square meter. And a total per year is a plus 112,000 kilos. Okay, so how can we improve this in renovation? In a proper renovation, we can reduce this number to a 10 kilo per carbon per square meter. And this will represent 50,000 kilos of carbon per year. So how does it work? How can we create this very astonishing number to reduce this amount of emissions? So we have right now that once the project meets the minimum requirement, Stunning Green saves the reputation on chain, okay, for sustainable good practices on Celo blockchain. So the carbon savings can be sold as carbon credits at the market before starting the construction. And in our building that we've seen right now, we would be able to reduce the footprint in almost 100,000 kilos per year. This is a huge amount of building. And remember the 84,000 of buildings that we have only here in Barcelona. If we could have half of this, not spending a lot of energy and being so efficient, imagine how can we could help the city to be a better and more sustainable environment. So the benefits right now, the rehabilitation has a liquidity from the beginning of the construction work. So when you start a construction, you will have the liquidity. So citizens can access a database of recognized sustainable professionals. So the ones that they can see on the blockchain, on the Celo blockchain, and they see that these people are very, very aware of the environment. And you as a citizen can go to our dashboard and see all of the buildings around the world that they are applying these standards. And the last point is the bureaucracy to obtain the financial and renovation projects can be simplified. So this can be very, very interesting for the ones who wants to get some money, but it's very hard right now to achieve and to get this money. So the vision that we vision the future where agents can use better to facilitate the renovation of our building stocks as stronger actions on climate changes. Okay. So with this, we summarize what is Stunning Green, what is our idea, and how we are using our brains and our energy to improve the environments that we have. So thanks a lot for having us here. And if there's some question, please let us know. And it's now open for questions.
Thank you, Taylor. Go ahead.
Hi, Paolo. Great presentation. My name's Tyler. I'm from Air Force. We focus on the intersection of crypto and climate. That's our mandate. I had some questions around your solution with respect to if they fit a minimum standard and the work that they're going to do is going to reduce emissions. What is your kind of you don't have to go into too much detail, but how are you going to be able to validate this? And are you essentially creating a future sale of carbon? Because the credits won't be issued until it's actually realized. So what are the mechanisms that you guys are using to pre-fund all of this? And how are you ensuring that it's compliant? And kind of where are you going to kind of sell these to what buyers?
There is Teresa here, who's an architect. Do you want to answer this, or I can answer this? Teresa? Okay, maybe she can't respond right now. The point here is that with renovations, we've seen that there is a lot of verticals that we can use in terms of trying to help people to obtain something in terms of using the platform that we are trying to do. Why I'm saying this? Because only renovation is awesome, and if you are conscious in terms of the levels that we want to achieve, it's awesome. But people want to have something in returns of doing a certain certain act. So what we are thinking about is trying to one of your question was how can we measure these levels. For the beginning, we are trying to get very, very close to the government of Barcelona. So they have very strict standards. And once you, as an architect, make a project, it's very, very hard, especially here we are talking about Europe for the beginning because we are located here. It's very, very hard to change something on your project, you know? So one of the things that we want to do as the beginning of the project is being aware that everyone is getting these points, achieving these points, this higher level of energy consumption, and for the beginning, because it's very, very important for us to do this. And once they achieve these levels and they get this, they submit these projects to approval of the government of the government of Barcelona in this case, you know that these people have this. When they have this approval, you know that they are able to receive not only the standard that we are creating, the putting this information on the blockchain, but if they want to sell in another platform, we are not thinking about recreating the platform to sell this credits, but if they want to do this, we will partnering with other projects that are achieving this, who are responsible for do this, for selling carbon credits, and we can match it up, and this person will be able. But there is some levels of things that this person needs to achieve in terms to receive the approval that we have in this platform. I don't know if it was easy to understand, but if it's not, I'm open to reframe this question, or we can have this one-on-one, and we can just have that. I can show you more about the project, and we can for sure try to get a very clear and easy way to you understand this point, Tyler.
Thanks. Thank you.
Any other question? Oh, Chris, go ahead.
So basically, is it an equity project, right? Is it equity deal, right?
Yeah, what we have in terms of, yeah, it's equity in terms of what you want to achieve. But this project, one of the things that we want to achieve with this project is that once you, as an architect, come here, use our plugin. Our plugin will be for sale on Revit. You know, Revit is a platform that all the architects use for creating this scaffolding of the buildings, the designing the buildings. So this plugin will be for sale. So this is one of the ways that we can use to subsidize the project too. And the other ways is when they are obviously or better, when they are selling the credits. It's our other way that we can use to subsidize our projects. And when if you are an architect and you want to print your certificate or validate your work on the blockchain, you will need to mint this NFT. We want to do this as an NFT and put it on the Celo blockchain. So this is another way that we can get some money, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have like the, because you didn't probably you don't have time to show the interface UI, right?
No, because we are working on the part of the very, very tricky, that it's the plugin, because it's made on Python, and we need to get some more information that was way too long to get for us, because in terms of having the better materials, you need to know some information that it's external of things that we have. So it took more time to get this information that we wanted. So great part of this platform, it's an internal platform that it's connected to the Beam. We couldn't get this information. So I'm really, really sorry about not having this information right now. But as I said for Tyler, we can have a one-on-one, and I'll get the emails and get all of the information that you have, that I have with you. And I'm really, really keen to show you this platform working and up and running. It will be awesome for us to make a round with the Stunning Green platform.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Tyler, go ahead.
Hi, just one follow-up. I'm just wondering, like, from because you say you're working with the government of Barcelona, like in Spain, I guess what you're building right now is built for those standards, but as you expand and scale this, like, are you are you looking to help fund projects based on like kind of government mandates and subsidies that they're using in Spain, or like is this something that you could see expanding across to different countries, different regions? Like, what is that kind of, have you guys identified where that like kind of common thread is on how this could impact other areas of the world and scale like that?
Awesome question, Tyler. This is something that we've been discussing a lot. We decided to start with Barcelona, not only because Teresa was architect and she was formed in Barcelona, so the connections is more easy, and as we live here, it's easy to trying to get to see the problems that we have, you know. And this Stunning Green is not a region project, is a worldwide, but we need to start for a certain point. So we decided to start from Barcelona, that a city that we know that it's very progressive in terms of the climate changing. It's a city that is very open and in terms of architecture. There is a lot of buildings that needs renovation, and we are here. So the idea is for the short mid-term, having all the knowledge, using this platform here and collect the very good amount of data, and then expanding to the other places, but having Barcelona as a model, you know, so we can see that there's a project that is up and running in Barcelona, and we are expanding for other regions, because we know there is some bureaucracy, there is some legal things, and there is other things that we need to be very, very aware when regarding the other markets. But starting for a very concrete point and then expand for us should be the best approach, and especially because, as I said, once again, Teresa was formed here, so there's a lot of people who are working in some offices here, architect offices here. So getting people, more and more people, using this platform on a daily basis will be easier for us.
Got it. Thank you.
So for this particular hackathon, Kotanipe was focused on enabling users to access decentralized finance through WhatsApp, and we'll come to why WhatsApp. So we know that there are about 1.7 unbanked or underbanked people in the world. We know that there are certain advantages that blockchain technologies and crypto bring to this population, including the fact that they can send and receive money quickly and securely on blockchains. They can access savings and they can access financial services. All you need is a phone and a SIM card. In Africa, however, we usually have a challenge, and the challenge is that today's blockchains have been built with a smartphone user in mind. And in fact, I'll go ahead and say an iPhone user in mind, locking out millions of people. For the last 2 years, as a company, we have been focused on enabling SMS phone users to access blockchain financial services. And we have been very successful at creating an on-ramp, off-ramp service for SMS phone users who want to access the Celo blockchain. Up to date, we have processed close to $3 million in gross transactional volume for this particular population. The next millions of users, we believe, can be onboarded onto DeFi using the most used mobile app in Africa, and that's WhatsApp. And if you look at today's statistics, there are about 27 million people who currently own cryptocurrency. Of this number, only 0.0024% have used a decentralized application. A behemoth app like WhatsApp has a massive penetration in most African countries. In Kenya, WhatsApp's penetration lies at 97%, 96% in South Africa, and 95% in Nigeria. Conversational commerce, which is doing business via messaging apps, chatbots, live chats, is something that has been ongoing for a long time. And WhatsApp has recently been pushing deeper into the business arena with various products, including product catalogs, collections, shopping carts, Instagram shops, and so on and so forth. What we asked ourselves is, can the same interface, WhatsApp, be used as a wallet, as a crypto wallet for DeFi services? So the Kotani Pay WhatsApp wallet is a custodial wallet that ensures, users don't have to worry about writing down their private keys. It allows a user to send and receive stable coins to others using their phone. It supports on and off ramps for mobile money, which is the main payment channel in Africa, airtime and bank transfers. And we're looking to provide access to yield accounts of up to 5% annual revenue, and provide access to zero collateral DeFi loans. And it works in a very simple way. All you have to do is open the WhatsApp bot, say hi to the WhatsApp bot, and you get a menu. After you get a menu, you choose to stake, and then you earn yield and cash out when ready via your mobile app. So this is how it works. Once you've said hi, you get this menu. You just choose one of the options, say stake to Mula Market. How much do you want to stake? 0.5 CUSD. And then once I stake that to Mula Market, I can earn my yield. And once I've earned my yield, I can choose to cash out. Of course, after a period of time. So you even get a transaction ID that you can follow on the blockchain. So what is the future direction with this particular product? We can easily imagine millions of African traders and youth with smartphones using the solution to stake and earn yield and cash out. This is a flexible interface that can be used for thousands of use cases, from universal basic income use cases to lending to social currencies, all enabled on the WhatsApp interface. And like in all other cases with our previous wallet, your phone number is linked to your Celo account, and you can follow all those transactions on chain. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Felix, sorry, Sahat here. Thanks for the presentation. So what's the stage of the product right now? Where do you guys stand?
Yes, so this is very much at conception stage, because we have a previous product, USSD SMS wallet, that, as I mentioned, is being used by today thousands of users, about 5,000 wallet users in Kenya, 2,000 wallet users in Ghana. We processed close to $3 million worth of GTV via the SMS wallet. For this particular wallet, we're actually at launch stage, so we're working on it. We are thinking of the approach to take. Should we go custodial or non-custodial? But in terms of the technology aspects of this particular WhatsApp wallet, it works very well.
Understood. And a quick follow-up, maybe. How did you architect? Did you look at the sort of security architecture as to how that could work? Did you guys go that far already, or?
Yes, we did. So a lot of it we're borrowing from our previous experience, working with SMS phone wallets. So basically your interface is how you used to interact with your private keys that are encrypted and stored and interact then with your on-chain account. So the same architecture applied in this case, but there was a bit of thought around how it could work with WhatsApp APIs in a way that it's safe. Luckily for us, WhatsApp has also encrypted its messages, and so when you're interacting with a bot, there's no one outside of that interaction that actually can access your account basically.